Hey guys, what's up? So I wanted to wait a few days to let the dust settle with East vs. West 7 before making this. But now that everyone has had some time to digest the bitter pill that was to swallow for the West, here are my thoughts on the event. So the consistent theme I've noticed over the last few days brings up an interesting question. It's a given that the reffing for this event was, at a bare minimum, inconsistent. But this actually brings up a bigger question. Were the referees unfair to West contestants? I'll address my thoughts on this in a bit, and do my best to do somewhat of an objective breakdown based on how I understand the rules for East versus West. Meanwhile, here are some of my personal thoughts on the event. The event was exciting and had good energy. It was good to see RVJ in a competitive setting and taking arm wrestling seriously again. Put me in the camp that believes RVJ can go as far in the sport as he is willing to dedicate himself to. The matches had a good pace, and I much prefer 10 to 12 matches over the 15-16 match format we were becoming accustomed to. Quality over quantity is definitely the way to go. Like many have said, the matches were in fact closer than many of the 3-0 outcomes indicated on the scoreboard. Off the top of my head, I'll give you 3 standout matches. The first match that stood out to me was the one I thought all along would deliver us arguably the most technically proficient display of arm wrestling, Irakli versus Angarbayev. The rounds didn't last as long as maybe some had expected, but man, that second round and how when Irakli came in to engage his shiny new flop press, Angarbayev wasn't having any of it, and it almost looked like he baited Irakli into going for it, just so he could beat him to the punch. Whether that's the case or not, it doesn't really matter, because otherwise Angarbayev showed cat-like reflexes in not allowing Irakli to get in position. It was obviously Irakli who was caught off guard by Angarbayev's efficiency, speed, and frankly, the power of his hit. It wasn't quite the close one as I had hoped, but to me, it delivered as one of the top matches of the card. Speaking of cat-like reflexes, the second standout match would be Adam Wrzynski and Bacho Sagnishvili. I don't think anyone was expecting the young Georgian to be as dominant as he was. Technically, we still haven't seen him arm wrestle. We have, but we haven't seen him actually have to put any effort in since his entire super match with Adam lasted all of 5 seconds. 3 flash pins and that was it. It actually kind of reminds me of somebody I dated many years ago. Seriously though, I couldn't have been more wrong in my initial prediction of this one. And then Paul Lynn and Sasho Andreev was definitely one of the standout matches and probably as close to a win as the West got. I do address the unfortunate circumstances regarding this match later in the video. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about the refs. There were definitely a few instances I observed where they were asleep at the wheel. I'm not sure that they were necessarily being unfair, but maybe just not alert. One thing I noticed throughout the event was the inconsistency with the ready go. Supposedly they had said before the event that there would be a brief pause between the ready and the go. But in practice, it didn't go as intended. Sometimes it was ready, go. Sometimes it was ready, go. Sometimes it was just go. I understand the refs have a tough job, and in the heat of battle, sometimes small details get lost. But as the cost of these events go up, so too do the expectations of professionalism and delivering to the fans and the pullers what we were told to expect. Arm wrestling at this level involves taking every small edge one can get, and pullers who struggle with explosive opponents were at a little bit of a disadvantage, given the inconsistencies that were present during this event. Of course, the most egregious mistakes were against 2 of the most prominent arm wrestlers on the West side, Paul Lynn and Devin. We see in round 2 of Paul Lynn's match where he has Sasho pinned for nearly 10 seconds before the refs call it a pin. You can clearly hear Paul yelling, "Pin, pin," but the 2 refs just stand there, measuring the millimeters between Sasho's hand and the pin pad? If they had called this in a timely fashion, Paul wouldn't have had to expend unneeded energy and could have possibly pushed through that hook in round 3. Instead, it seems like the referees were intentionally trying to gas out Paul. In round 1 of the match between Devin and Gennady, we clearly see Gennady's elbow come up first, but according to the rules meeting, you can lift your elbow if you don't have the advantage, and the match will continue with no foul. This rule makes no sense to me, but I'm not going to debate whether the rules are fair or not. The athletes agree to them beforehand, and if that's the rule, then Gennady should have not been fouled for it. However, just a few seconds later, Devin gets a foul for his elbow coming off the back of the pad. I don't think that actually happened, and neither do most of you. I've watched and rewatched that part, I've zoomed in, I've run it back and forth in slow motion, and I still can't find where Devin's elbow comes off the pad. So of course we know that this fake foul contributes to Devin losing round 1. If that foul wasn't called, we can assume that Devin goes on to pin Gennady 3 rounds in a row for the win. In the end, Team West did not win a single super match. The backlash from the results of this event have lit up the entire arm wrestling community. So much so that Engen had to address the referee situation the very next day. Luckily, he recognizes how bad this looks for his organization and is willing to entertain ideas to make it more fair. Some of the suggestions he made were to hire some referees from North America. Others have suggested alternating locations so that the Western athletes don't always have to travel 10 plus hours. I know if you held it somewhere in the United States, I would be willing to purchase a ticket to watch it in person. I also think having it in a neutral location would be a good idea so that no one has a home field advantage. I would also consider taking some ideas from football and give the athletes one challenge per super match. If you disagree with the referee, you can challenge the call. They go back and review the footage. If you are correct, the foul is canceled. If you are wrong, you lose the round. Engen recognizes that the East winning all the matches is bad for business. Most of the revenue for the event surely comes from people in the West purchasing the pay-per-view. Obviously, if people in North America think the matches are biased towards the East, they may stop supporting the event. Now that could lead to Engen feeling like he has to make it easier for the West to win, which I think is also a bad idea. I don't want him making it easier for the West to win. I just want it to be fair. Thank you guys for watching the video. As always, please like and subscribe to the channel. I can't do this without all of your support. Thanks.